Here we are doing another episode of Exhale with Sharon and Stacey. And while we're doing this, I am playing with my IG because we are now streaming live on IG, YouTube, and Facebook. Look at us moving on up. So now I am Stacey Thomas. Did I not tell you that? Sharon's going to join us in not even a second, and I'm going to bring her on, okay? Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, Stacy.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. You know, it says Exhale with Sharon and Stacey. We got to work on some things because Sharon is supposed to set this thing off.
Once Sharon learns how to use all this technology, she'll set it off.
I don't mind. I don't mind. But you know something I always say, I be thinking Sharon's going to give us those good words. You know what I mean? How are you?
I'm doing good, Stacy. I cannot complain. It's been a long Tuesday. It's
It-
been a long Tuesday. And I think, you know what? This topic that we're about to talk about today, I probably spent my whole day working with people on this issue boundaries. It's the new buzzword. It's the new buzzword. But I think we got this boundary thing all wrong. I mean, I think we get confused about what's our responsibility and what's not, and what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and how we should do things and how we shouldn't do things. And really, when you're thinking about a boundary, you're thinking about it starts with you because it starts with what's right for you. What's right for you and what has value for you and what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel a level of control in your life. But a lot of times we go off on in a tangent and we're trying to control things in other people's lives. We're all in other people's Kool-Aid trying to get tell them what flavor it is. So this is a very timely topic, I think.
It is a timely topic. And you know, you always make it make sense, right? But at the same time, Sharon, if you're saying I'm overstepping my boundaries, I'm stepping
Mhm.
into somebody else's lane,
Right.
um, Sharon Matthews Fortune, I wouldn't step in your lane if you didn't tell me your business. If
Yes.
you don't tell me your business, Sharon,
Right.
like I told my son one time, I don't feel like I crossed my boundaries, Sharon. Because
Right.
if he didn't tell me his, yeah, I
Right.
wouldn't get in it, Sharon.
Yeah, that's true. And it goes both ways. It goes both ways because what you're talking about is an emotional boundary. Emotional boundaries, like you got to determine how much you should share, and how much stuff you want people to, how much you want to allow people in your business. How
Right.
much energy you want to give stuff. You have to determine that. And when it goes off the rails, then you need to fix it instead of having expectations that people are going to respect you in a certain way or not expect you to do things for them. So, like you said, if I tell you something, if I pull you in and I give you information, I allow you into my emotional space, that's on me. I have no control what you're going to do once you get into my emotional space, once I open it up, right?
Right.
Yeah. But me staying in my lane is if you tell me something, I need to respect you enough to allow you to cut it off where you want to cut it off without me prying, without me digging further, without me um, trying to manipulate information out of you or force you to tell me stuff or force you to share stuff that you may not be willing to share. So if I give it to you, that's on me. But you shouldn't invade my privacy.
Maybe if you give it to me, Sharon,
Hmm.
this is just me personally, okay?
Okay. Okay.
If you come to me with something, Sharon,
Hmm.
and especially if I care about you,
Yeah.
and you're saying that somebody's doing you wrong or something's going on, then I'm going to need you to say, Stacy, I only want you to listen. I'm not asking you to get in it.
Right.
I'm not really asking for your opinion. I
Right.
just need someone to let me vent.
Yes.
Because when you say that, Sharon, I'm gonna let you dump,
Yep.
but I'm
Yep.
gonna stay in my lane.
And that's the missing piece. I always tell people, say what you need. If I just need to dump, then say I just need to dump. You know, if I
Right.
need advice, then say I need advice. But when you don't say what you need and you just kind of go in, and then let's say I didn't preface it in the way that you said, and I just started to, dump on you, and then you started giving me advice and telling me what you would do and what you wouldn't do. And then I get offended because
Right there.
right,
Right there.
then that's on me because I didn't say to you what I needed from the conversation. But and all of it is communication, because if you take the time to communicate exactly what you need from that conversation or from that person, then you're setting a limit. If I didn't ask for your advice, if I said, Stacey, I just need to vent, and you start giving me advice, then I got to go back to say, well, Stacey, I said, you know what? I don't need any advice. I just need to vent today. All I need you to do is listen. Right. And so if you can respect my boundary, then you'll say, okay, I'm just listening. I'm just listening. But you not staying in your lane would then be you taking what I said, because all I want you to do is listen. And then you take what I say, and then you go and you decide you're going to do something with that. Like, say, I'm talking about somebody, or somebody did something to me. And then you're going to go and say something to them because I told you about how they treated me. I didn't ask you to do that, but you go because I didn't
Okay.
practice it.
Here's another one, Sharon.
Mhm.
I get what you're saying, Sharon. I
Uh-huh.
do. And I know we're gonna talk to the people that we're closest to, right?
Yeah.
But what makes you think, Sharon, if I love my friend Sharon
Mhm.
and I agree to sit there, listen, and don't open my mouth, what makes you think it's not gonna hit me right here and I'm gonna need to go say something?
Should you tell me that you are planning on going and saying something? Should you ask me if
Yes,
it's okay? But that
yes.
doesn't happen all the time, That doesn't happen all the time. By the time it circles back around to me, you already said something to Judith. You've already I'm using a name that ain't common, so one about
And you
think,
didn't even ask me to get in your business like
I
that.
ain't asked you to say nothing to Judith. You just went and said, now we got a mess, right? But it all
So,
started because I dumped my emotional baggage on you, and I didn't tell you what I needed from you.
okay, here I go on the couch. All right. So, Sharon, explain to me the next time someone I love,
Mhm.
let's say my boys, tell me some foolishness
Uh-huh.
about one of the chicks they with, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And something that really, really needs to be taken care of, and he's not handling it.
And whose opinion does it need to be taken care of? His opinion or your opinion?
So, so Sharon,
Yeah, Stacey, you gonna stay in your lane. Now, whose
tell,
opinion is it?
tell me, Sharon, what to do, what to tell myself. If I
Okay.
feel like I need to say something to this person,
Mhm.
Sharon, do you want me to just exhale? I'm not sure if that's going to work.
Exhale, Stacy, because if
Okay,
your son
then.
didn't, okay, so it's your perception, right? That something needs to be done about the way she's treating your son. How old is your son? Let's go there. How old is your son?
One's going to be 27 and one's 33.
Okay. But you're talking about something real though. I mean, what you're talking about happens all the time. Somebody tells you something you feel like is violating or mistreating or whatever. Oh my God. And your blood is boiling, as my grandma would say. Your blood is boiling. And you feel like you need to do something about it because that's your son and your son told you what was going on. But what has your son done about the situation?
Exactly. So, okay, let me give you an example. So, I'm on the couch because I want to learn from this. So, I won't go and jump at the girl. Mm-mm. I
Right?
don't do that, right? Because I know there's two sides to every story.
Right?
But if I know she messy and what he's saying and it's bothering him,
Mm-hmm.
I say something to him, blah blah blah, to one of them, blah 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 blah, and
Uh-huh.
then they get bothered with me for
Yeah.
talking about her. You
Yeah.
want to crap to me?
Yes, exactly. Now he tell you don't talk about her. I don't want to talk about it no more. Something like that. But he didn't communicate it to you in the way that, like you said, he should have said, "Mom, I just need to vent."
He
Um,
said, "Mom, I just wanted you to listen." Well, you didn't disclose that in the beginning, and
right.
like I said, how you think you gonna come tell your mother something? She messy, she heard you, and I ain't gonna react.
hmm But so when we talk about boundaries, staying in your lane. So with the children is hard. I think that's probably one of the harder areas. Your parents, your children, family members in general, but normally your children, it's really hard to stay in your lane because we raised them. We are the ones who set the tone for how they show up in relationships or what they believe and what, how they act and all that good stuff. And we are the ones who were guiding them. So we think that, okay, they're coming to us and they need my help, or they need my guidance, or they need my advice, or they need my input, but adjusting when you're talking about staying in your lane, adjusting how you show up in your children's life based on the age, you know.
Now, I don't want you to think I'm holding my boys on my breast. That
Mm,
ain't happening over here. That ain't
no,
anybody that's watching. I'm not one of those mothers that's
right.
getting in their business. I don't go to the female saying anything. I guess
Uh-huh.
I'm just boiling and telling him why are you putting up with this blah blah blah, and
Because you
that's not
care
what
about
they want to hear.
because you care about him. You want him to protect himself. You want him to set boundaries, is what you
Right,
want, right?
right.
Because the boundary is the behavior. It's the you got expectations. Somebody may communicate an expectation, but the boundary is what I will do or won't do if you continue to do that or if you don't do that. That's the boundary part. So Stacey, you're looking at it and you're like, your son ain't doing nothing. She doing all this, she, as they say, she doing the most and he ain't doing nothing about it. You need him to set a boundary with her to say, if you continue to do this, then I'm going to. And he sets his boundary and then he maintains the boundary with her, but he may not be doing that. You know why? Because we didn't teach our children how to set boundaries, and
You
nobody
know.
taught us how to set boundaries.
So you want to know how I handle it? At the
How?
end of the day, after I said what I said, don't bring her on my property. Don't bring don't bring her on my property. Then he mad at me. You told me.
Right. Then you
I
want to
don't know.
back it up, you know.
Because I tell him you ain't got the calmest mother. I don't know how I act. I will act. So keep her away for a while.
But in that though, Stacey, what do you want? Like when you say to him, "Don't bring her on my property," he gonna still deal with her.
Just off my property.
Okay. All right. And that's the part, that the hard sell with that is um people allowing other people to treat them a certain way and we mad at the person,
Right.
but
And
they
you
still
should and you shouldn't be. So
with
okay.
them.
So
Uh-huh.
I've learned that. And I will say, Aunt Sharon, because of what you're saying, the next time he gets ready to say something, I'll say, wait a minute. And when he say, yes, ma'am, is this a time for me to listen only,
Uh-huh.
or are we going to have a conversation?
Mhm.
We get it
Mhm.
straight in the beginning, and then I will respect if he says, Mom, I just want you to listen.
Yes,
It ain't none of
listen.
my business.
And then we have to train ourselves to listen objectively because when you care about somebody, you're listening with your heart and with your emotions, right?
Right.
And so what they're telling you is going to bother you
Right.
because we're thinking about fair, right, wrong, um, appreciated, disrespected, all those things. We're thinking about all those things. But if you listen objectively when a person comes to you and they're telling you what's going on and what happened, the objective part of you should be saying, well, what's your part in it? What do
Yeah,
you want? What do you want? What do you want to happen? What
yeah,
kind of outcome are you looking for?
yeah.
What change do you want? And how can you be a part of the change that you want to see? You know, that's how you can
Yeah.
listen objectively to keep them
Okay.
from pulling you in because they got you all emotionally entangled in it. And they go back and they right there with that person.
Well, I think I kind of got it straight. I explained to him, if you don't tell me, if
Hmm.
you know it's gonna bother me, and you don't tell me if you don't want me to say something.
Uh-huh.
Don't
Exactly.
tell me because it
That
depends on the person you're talking to, Sharon, if they can handle it or not.
so then, Stacy, that would be the boundary that you set. You would say to him, "Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. If you don't want me to respond or react to her in a negative way, then don't tell me.
Okay.
Tell me your business. Don't tell me your dirt. I don't want to know it because I can't separate myself from, I can't unhear what you
And,
tell me. So
and I guess that's like for relationships too. If
mhm.
excuse me, people get in relationships and they want to go tell their best friends or their best buddies about
Uh,
the argument they had, and
mm,
and then you get mad because when you and him or you and her get back together, that person said something, but
yes,
you invited them into your lane when you told them your business.
exactly. Exactly.
So
Exactly. And
what do you I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
the same goes with over functioning. When you feel like somebody is over functioning, let's say you and I were talking about some show titles and you brought up the mama's boy.
We going there. Go ahead.
And you may feel like she's over functioning in his life, right? Mama's over functioning in
Yeah.
his life, but he a mama's boy. So he's allowing mama to over function in his life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he ain't set no boundaries with mama, but you want him to set boundaries with mama.
I wonder the conversation that I had with somebody not too long ago, and she said she was going to talk to him about it, but I just couldn't. But actually, it became a group conversation in my office because other people were coming in too, and the
Mhm.
young lady said, obviously no boundaries have been set because the mother who doesn't have a man, I'm saying she need to get a man, okay?
Mhm.
But you have mothers that think their sons are supposed to put them first.
Right.
Now that's a question people might get bothered with me about. I
Mhm.
mean, a statement. I don't believe that if your son or your daughter has a mate or a partner,
Mhm.
that we as mothers have the right to say, you're spending Valentine's Day with me because you see her
Mm.
every day. Is that is that
Oh.
her over is that her should he
Mm.
set some boundaries?
So that word should gets us in a whole lot of trouble. Pam said we need to stop people, keep people out of our business and keep business to ourselves. Yeah, that
That's that's
that
right,
would
Pam.
that
Because
would save a lot of trouble.
everybody that ain't married want to tell you how to do your marriage. Everybody ain't got kids want to tell you how to raise your kids.
Exactly.
Mind
Exactly.
your business.
Right. But okay, so you said he should tell his mom, right? That's what you said. He
I
should.
think he should set. I think because it's not just a Valentine's Day dinner. It's
Mhm.
a lot of things. I think the mother isn't acknowledging that he's in a relationship. And I do think that he should talk to his mother. Because
Right.
see, now you about to lose your woman because of your mama.
Right. But some of
Because
the
you don't set no boundaries.
some of the relationships that are the hardest to set boundaries in are family relationships, of course. But you got these enmeshed relationships where you don't know where they end and where you start. You don't know where, what you're responsible for with them and what you're not responsible for. So his mom saying to him, well, you see her every day and I want you to take me out for dinner. As you say, she's using him as a
She need to
date.
get a, she need to get a man.
Uh-huh. But he should have said a while ago,
That's true. That's true.
his
That's true.
mom. Now,
He
if he
needs
want to take his
to.
mama out, that's fine. If his girlfriend don't mind him taking his mama out, then that's fine. But you being the girlfriend, if you got a problem with that and him always, or his mom inserting herself and him allowing his mom to insert herself into uh, your relationship, then you got to let him know what your boundary is when it comes to that.
Right.
You have to then, and when we miss that piece of communication, we'll be frustrated with the person. We'll be upset. We'll be telling our girlfriends and our family members about it, but we don't set that boundary with him to
Right.
say, all right, you need to set a boundary with your mom. Or I'm saying, well, you can't control him. Let me say that. We can't control anybody else's boundaries. The only boundaries we can control are ours, right? So
Right.
if it bothers me and I have an expectation, then I got to say to him, you know what? Now, how would I phrase this in a way that's gentle, that won't call him a mama's boy?
Because he gonna get bothered anyway. You talk about his mama.
Exactly. And I always say, I don't know. You can't win when it comes to
The
the mom.
mama.
You just can't. You may say something like, well, I noticed that your mother is included often in special occasions. That may be something that couples do. Is it possible for you to reserve those times for us instead of including your mom? Because if you continue to include your mom, then I'm going to pull back and I'm going to let you and your mama go ahead on and go and do what y'all want to do. Because that's the action. You're telling him what you're going to do if he doesn't he doesn't correct something with his mother. Then it's up to him. Now,
Sharon, I really like how you put it.
yeah,
So calmly.
so calm. And
When
it, and
I
it
speak calmly, it's a hint that a storm about to come. I don't know how to get
It's
that.
like those still waters run deep, right?
I want to talk calmly, but if I start talking, Sharon,
Hmm.
and I'm talking, I
That's
want the other person to think, oh, we're about to have good conversation. But
uh-huh.
unfortunately, I have a reputation that it's about to come.
Like,
No,
uh-oh,
no,
people know the cues,
you're right.
right?
You're right, Sharon. You're right. And the older I get, I do try to think of like the right thing, Sharon. And I'm
Mhm.
learning from you, Sharon. I really am. I'm learning.
We are all a work in progress. We
It
all are.
so how do I handle look at me with these questions. Just want to throw some examples at you. Sharon, I'm doing business.
Uh-huh.
I'm doing it this way, and this is the way I like doing it. And someone calls you or messages you, and they ain't got a business.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do you, as a business person, let the people know that don't have a business?
Yeah.
You stay in your lane and let me do me. How do you say that
Uh-huh.
calmly?
In a nice way. So,
Yes.
so somebody that's once again somebody stepping into, they're overstepping a boundary because you didn't ask them for anything, right?
And I should not have had to set a boundary. My business is my business. You mind your business and
Mm.
let me mind my business.
Okay. So you let them know, yeah, I appreciate your input, but this is the method or the strategy or the protocol we use in my business, and it
Okay.
works for me.
Okay.
And your information, you can maybe let them know, it may sound like it works because you don't have a business. Um, and a lot
That's
of times,
kind of slick. That's kind of slick right there, Sharon. But go ahead.
yeah, it may, from the outside looking in, it may sound like it would work
Yeah.
because, you don't have a business, but I've learned what works for me. And, I appreciate your input, but I really don't need
Sharon.
it.
See, you say it with a nice look on your face. Me, Lover, and my boys say, "Ma, don't try to fix your face when you say something." They say I can't fix it. See, you can say it and have such a nice look on your face, Sharon. Me, like someone told me one time, Sharon, I said, why do you feel like you can ask people questions about their life? So you overstepping your boundaries, right?
Hmm.
And she says to me, and I hope she watches this because she don't know exactly who I'm talking about. And she says, well, Stacey, if people don't want me in their business, they should
Uh-huh.
say that. I said, you want them to say it's none of your business? She said, yeah. Sharon,
And as easy as that. It's
she
easy as that, though, right?
but she comes back down the road Sharon,
Mm,
and she asked
you
me
didn't mean
something.
it.
And I felt like she was stepping over in my lane. And I said, it's none of your business.
Hmm.
And to this day, she says it was smart. I
Oh, did
said,
you got smart with her when you said that?
you said it's none to say it's none of your business. She said, Stacy, it's not that you said it, it's the way you said it.
Hmm.
Parent.
Hmm. But people don't like you to set boundaries with them. People struggle with boundaries. It's often said that boundaries are mean, and a lot of people struggle with no, saying no because they think, oh, I'm being mean, oh, I should do it. This I should, blah blah blah.
Right.
People struggle with boundaries. They do not take too kindly to boundaries. I don't care how you say it.
People
They
want to because people want to be in your business.
Mm-hmm,
They
exactly.
want to be in your business. I
Mm-hmm.
made a decision in my life one time, and I had some family members mad at me. It won't none of their business.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And they was hurt Sharon,
Mm.
because I did not tell them.
They felt entitled to you sharing your business with them. Mm. And as we age, we have to start to set boundaries with people. We have to create the dividing lines. When people come out and do surveys and they put those boundary lines out,
Right,
that means it's my property. And on the other side of that is your property, right?
right, right.
But what we do sometimes that causes problems is we step over the boundary line. And then sometimes we move our boundary line back and give people too much space, more space than we're comfortable with in our lane. So it's up to us. It's communication. Communication is the key.
Can I give you another example of stepping over the line?
Mm-hmm.
You ain't gonna like this.
Uh-oh. I'm listening.
Just because I tell, okay, I made it. I'm going to use me as an example.
Uh-huh.
I run in my mouth. See, you put people in your business. I said, we're getting a divorce.
Oh, that's a big one.
And she says, I'm going to pray for y'all. And
Mm.
I said, what you going to pray? What?
Uh-huh. She's gonna pray. Yep.
You got to be careful. You think you have friends and they think they know what's best for you
And what to say.
and what to say.
Mhm.
You have to watch what you say to people
Right.
so they don't get into the mistake the dumping for you going out, right? But you
Right.
also have to be careful because when people say they're going to pray for you,
Mm-hmm.
they could be praying for the opposite of what you really want.
Right. Exactly.
And
Right.
people need to remember that. And I guess this is just one of those things that I want to like just stress to people.
Uh-huh.
Everybody doesn't, and I'm not this person right here. I know she meant well, but she didn't know my reasonings, right?
Right.
When you're talking to people, they always say we need somebody to talk to. Leave it between you and God.
Exactly, exactly,
Then you ain't got to worry about nobody stepping over the line.
exactly. And what I would say to you, Stacey, if I said I was going to pray for you, I would say I'm going to pray for God's will for you.
Thank you, thank
That,
you. You,
that's
but
that's
see,
what I would say.
but see, just now that time, I know she wanted what was best for me, so I
Hmm.
wasn't worried about her praying for anything bad. But I just want sure I was. She gonna say the prayer I want, right?
Right? She's like, you
And
don't know what you're doing,
and
so
yes, yes,
pray for y'all
because
to work it out.
because
Hmm.
friends will say, and you don't know what they praying, but you
Exactly.
wonder why your stuff ain't working out. They over there praying something else.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Prayer is good. Prayer is good, but that's why I'm very particular about who I got
Hmm.
a prayer team. I say I got my own praying team.
Right.
I'm very particular about who I ask to pray for me because some people,
Yes.
in the midst of them
Mhm.
praying for you, they all up in your business telling somebody else everything.
Exactly. But a couple of cues, though, for when we need to set a boundary to keep people out of our lane or to keep us in our own lane is when, a couple of cues are when you become defended, offended, and you feel defensive, then you need to set a boundary. When you feel guilty, you probably need to set a boundary. And most of the time, when you feel guilty, you need to set a boundary with yourself because a lot of times we guilt ourselves into doing things that we feel other people expect us to do or want us
Right,
to do or we should
right,
do. You know,
right,
um,
right.
when you feel uh, disrespected, definitely you should be setting a boundary. When you feel unappreciated, you need to set a boundary with yourself because if you're feeling unappreciated, you may be over functioning. You may be doing too much. And your expectation was that the person would respond in a different way, but they haven't. A lot of times, somebody will say, like, let's use the workplace. And somebody is, the expectation is all of us are going to do the same amount of work. And then you got a slacker in there who don't give a crap. They
Mhm.
just came to work to get a check. They don't care about the workflow. And then you in there over functioning, you doing. And they sitting back, they taking long lunch breaks and all that. And you pissed because they not working as hard as you're working. Who need to set the boundary?
Me
You. Exactly.
and tell them what you want me to do.
Okay, so your expectation is they're gonna come in here and they can do, but you are doing your work and their work because
I'm
it's lacking.
so I should have set the boundary, basically saying, "Hey, I can't do your job and my job."
Exactly. This is your work. I'm no longer going to do your work for you. We both, come in here and we both have obligations and responsibilities. This is yours. I'm no longer going to do your work for you.
So let's get back to what you said a minute ago because you really got me. I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, I'm getting free therapy. I'm joking, Sharon. I'm joking. Sharon, family.
Yeah.
Does it make a difference? And I think I asked you the same thing about betrayal.
Hmm.
Family.
Hmm.
If
That's
if dealing with your parents, because I've been hearing some things, talking to people, if dealing with your parents causes you heartache, causes your spirit to be disturbed,
yeah.
is it wrong? Do you think as a therapist
Hmm.
that it's wrong to set a boundary between you and your parents?
No, no. We were taught that we're not supposed to set boundaries with our
That's
parents.
that's
We were
it.
taught that.
Because it's disrespecting your parents.
Disrespectful, uh-huh. But no, as a therapist, I tell people you should, not should, you set the boundaries where they're needed because you get to a certain age and old rules and old belief systems and old narratives have been passed down from generation to generation to generation, which
Yeah,
makes you
have you
feel
messed
like
up?
yeah, it has us messed up exactly. And it makes you feel like you're not entitled to any boundaries, and it's wrong to set boundaries with your parents, but that leads to enmeshed relationships, that leads to manipulative relationships, that leads to toxic relationships, that leads to unhealthy patterns in relationships. So, once you get to the place, Stacey, where you identify your needs, what makes you feel safe, what gives you a sense of fulfillment and control. And if that goes counter to how your parents show up in and what makes you feel respected and some other things, and that goes counter to how your parents show up in your world, then you got to set boundaries with them. You got
Right.
to create, I always say we have to create our adult relationship with our parents. A lot of people still showing up in their parents' lives as children and they 55, 65, 75.
See, I that thing with, the way we were raised,
Mm,
you know,
yep.
that one thing, I realized the older I get, I've got a problem with one thing that I was told. May my mother rest in peace. I appreciate the way she raised me, but
Hmm.
that thing, you never disrespect someone older than you.
Hmm.
I feel like
Right.
as I get older,
Hmm.
is there an age that I get to stop thinking about that and put the person in check that's overstepping their bounds? But a lot of us will remain unhappy because we were told it's a sin to disrespect older people.
Exactly. And we don't have any control over what somebody else is going to experience as disrespectful, because you can do it as kindly and as appropriately as you choose and they still may feel disrespected,
Right.
you know.
Hmm.
So it's one of those things where it just has to become the new normal. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the parent gets on board and they respect you for setting the boundary. You know, they may resist at first, but then they get to the place where they do respect your boundaries. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they resist. And I said that's their stuff because they were raised in a certain way and they expect that generational, and I'm gonna say generational curse. They expect that generational curse to continue.
I was in my vehicle one time,
Mhm.
trying not, didn't want no smoke in the vehicle.
Uh-huh. Oh.
My daddy gets in my vehicle, and I said, "We not smoking in the vehicle,"
Mm.
and he lights a cigar.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Disrespecting your boundary, right?
I
And
can't.
that's your physical boundary. That happens a lot. You determine what you want to allow and what you don't want to allow in your house, you know, in your car. And these are your possessions in your physical space. And somebody comes in and they decide they just not going to
And I
adhere or
and I
respect
think
what you say.
and I think he did it because he was saying to himself, Stacey can try to act like she ain't gonna smoke in this car. She won't, but she gonna end up smoking. I just
Uh-huh. Yep. And so you let him, you know, he lights up and you're saying, okay. And then what? The next time he gets in, he's gonna light up again, and you gotta reinforce, okay, Dad, I'm not picking you up. The next time, you know, I'm not gonna be able to pick you up anymore because I don't allow smoking in my car. If you keep on picking him up, he don't have to respect
I
your
won't
boundaries.
picking him up that day. He was just this was some years ago. He was just riding with me because
Oh, okay.
because
Mhm.
he'll tell you
Yeah.
I can drive my own stuff. You know what I'm saying? But that just when you were talking about that made me think. I'm like, I remember saying that, and he
Hmm.
never responded. He just lit his cigar.
Yeah. Then you know these boundaries go deep. You got your emotional boundaries, you got your physical boundaries, you got sexual boundaries. You determining what you like and you don't like sexually. You determining how you want to be touched, how you want to be held, how you don't want to be positioned. All of that. Those are your sexual boundaries that you bring into the relationship, and you got to set the boundaries with your partner. If your partner continues to violate your boundary, you need to do something about that.
And I think if there's some, that could cause some problems in a relationship. But
Yeah,
I think if some people will say, well, then he or she's gonna think I don't love him if I don't try this. But let me tell
right,
you something. If you love me, you're gonna respect my boundaries.
right, right,
Listen, not to tell my business, but you better not choke me. I
right,
don't care how in love we are. You
right.
better not choke me.
You got your non-negotiables.
No
Uh,
choking.
mhm.
No
Your
choking.
non-negotiables, exactly.
And no amount of love, Sharon.
Right.
See, I guess I'm just built a little different. Sharon, no amount of love, and I love,
Mhm.
love.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna let gonna make me let a man choke me.
Yeah,
And I think it's okay that I have that boundary
it is.
because it's how I'm not comfortable with that.
Exactly.
I'm
And
not
at the
comfortable.
end of the day, we have to allow ourselves permission to want what we want and not want what we don't want. We have to allow ourselves permission. We have to allow ourselves the permission to say no when we don't want to do something and not feel guilty about it. We have to allow ourselves permission to express our feelings to people and not worry about their emotions, not be responsible. Well, I ain't gonna say that to them because it's probably they're gonna get upset about it if I say it. No, you have to have the difficult conversations. Boundaries are difficult to communicate and they're difficult to enforce, but with practice you become good at it. It's like we got to be stewards of ourselves. We can't expect other people to be stewards of us. We have to be stewards of our own well-being.
So when if if there's somebody, Sharon, that's not good at saying this is not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I am not comfortable with this.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not good at that, Sharon, can you give us one thing or one way that they can try to improve that thinking?
That they're not good at setting boundaries.
Right.
um get in touch with yourself first. Do some introspection. Go inside and say, what type of energy makes me feel uncomfortable? What type of behaviors don't sit well with me? What type of conversations make me feel uneasy? Get in touch with yourself because it has to start with you, because a lot of times we'll gaslight ourselves and say, oh, it's not that big a deal, it doesn't matter, I'm overreacting, I shouldn't let that bother me. But you got to get in touch and really look inside to see what does bother me, what makes me thrive, what throws me off my game. What do I need to communicate? And once you get clear with that, what those things are, then when they get violated, you can speak on it. You'll feel more comfortable speaking on it if you get into the habit of not denying yourself a feeling, not denying yourself uh, an action or a right. So it starts with enhancing your level of self awareness. It starts with that, and then picking one at a time and communicating that one at a time. If it's disrespect, if I say, well, I don't, this feels disrespectful to me. If I say, Stacey, I feel disrespected, you can be like, well, what did I do to make you feel disrespected? I got to be clear about what you did that made me feel disrespected. Stacey, when you took my such and
Mm.
such off my desk without asking me, I felt disrespected. Or
Mm.
when you da 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 da, I felt disrespected. So
Mm.
then, okay, I'm getting accustomed to letting you know exactly what you did that made me feel the way that I felt. It's delivered to you now.
And if they go, oh girl, you crazy.
Yep. And
Oh girl,
sometimes
you
they
crazy.
will. And sometimes they will. They will. But each time it's done, you bring it back to their attention. No, it's
Okay.
not crazy. That's my feeling. That rubs me the wrong way. I don't like that. And it may be your trigger, and we are responsible for our own triggers, but other people should be um considerate in your space. And if you require a person to be considerate in your space and they continue to be inconsiderate in your space, then you have to not make space for them. And a
Good.
lot of relationships need to end that are still active.
All right then.
Yes.
Okay.
So to stand in your lane aspect of things, it's communication. It's just really a big level of it comes from being able to communicate,
Communication.
asking questions, what do you want from me? What do you need me to do with this information? How do you want me to receive this? Or telling people, okay, this is where I draw the line, or I don't like that, or I can't do that. We got to communicate
That's
what
why
I
a lot of
need. Yeah,
that's why a lot of relationships fail. There's no communication, right?
exactly.
Because if you told me what I was doing wrong or how I stepped out of my lane, we might could fix that.
You could
But
fix
people
it.
don't talk.
Exactly. And they wait and you wait and you wait until it builds up. And then by the time there's this big rupture, it's happened 1,000 times, and your partner looking at you like, you never said anything about it. You never said
Right. Right.
anything. All you got to do is communicate, and then the boundaries could be set.
My last question.
Hmm.
You got somebody in your office and like you just said, y'all just need to be apart.
Yeah.
Sharon, do you throw a hint? Or is there a way that you kind of make without saying
Exhale.
it without saying it just what you say will have them thinking it? Like, how do you do that?
I always take people back to, if you, like you're saying, it's just my perception that they shouldn't be together, like they're really incompatible.
Right.
And we talked about that lopsided compatibility. Sometimes there's one that is really into the other one and willing to, and this person checks all their boxes, but it's not equal. And they come in, and I know that this this ain't right. I will go back to a needs assessment. What you need in your life, really? What are your primary core needs, and what are
Okay.
your non-negotiables? And I'll get them to do that exercise, and I don't have to tell them that they don't belong together, because when they do that exercise and they look at how them boxes ain't being checked, or how they got so many missing spaces, then I said, okay, so what does that math mean to you? So you make the determination. These are the facts. Let's use the facts, not the emotions. Let's use some facts too. So bring the facts into the equation. But that needs
Another
assessment is great. It's really, we all need to do needs assessments.
another great show. And if someone feels that in the local area that needs to have a needs assessment done, they can contact you. How, Sharon?
They can contact me, inbox me on any of the platforms that we're on.
Okay.
And also, we got our YouTube channels where you can go and you can view the entire show, because we upload all shows to our YouTube channel. So mine is SMF Counseling, and yours is
For
for
IG
YouTube.
or
YouTube.
YouTube, the
Mhm.
Stacey Thomas Show. And don't be inboxing me about what you should do because I'm gonna tell you straight up. Stay in your lane. Don't come for me.
Stay in your lane.
And
Stay
Sharon's giving you a needs assessment. I have to say, what you missing that you don't know you need to leave?
right. Exhale and stay in your lane. Yes.
Yeah,
More space on your side. Stay over there.
right. And the world will be a better place. It's
Yes,
been great.
indeed. Yes. Well, Stacey, as usual, it's been great. That's okay. Everybody, thank you for viewing tonight, and have a wonderful evening.
Have a good night, everyone.